What's up, world, and welcome back to the Global Frequency. I am your host, Nefarious.
And I'm Frequency Girl.
And tonight, we've got Brandon Smith from Cortex Comics coming our way, but he's not here yet.
Nope.
So we're just going to kind of hang out and take some suggestions and see what you guys want to talk about in the meantime. I think Katapano just went live. You want to just EFAP his stream? Should we just EFAP
I guess
Katapano and
we could
see what's good? Here, I'll load it up. Right.
Before we do that, we should point out that Mo Biggs let us know that Projectile Reptile is 95% funded. It's only got 8 hours left to go. So that's pretty awesome. It's really close. You can click that link if you want to help make it happen. It's almost there.
Yeah, man, that would be awesome if we could get that thing funded. I really want to see what that what's in store in that book. Dojo kind of put everything plus the kitchen sink into that book, and I want to see how he pulls it off. I'm really intrigued. All right, so
I want to say hello to Collision Bomb.
Yeah,
hello.
We got Collision Bomb, and we got Mo with us,
And we have Mo.
And we got Katapano. Is he muted? I think he's muted.
He's probably muted. Yeah.
To me, kind of like what I said when we kind of got on. You're like, hey, what's up? You know, we're doing. I got some points I want to cover. Utah here. Then I was like,
you can't see any of their faces.
I mean, to me, this all feels like
up.
how they say doctors are always practicing. It's like this is always learning every time I do it.
Dude,
every time I go through it.
You literally have the same brain. We were born as twins, and now the results are showing. I don't know what's in your. Is that a blur, or is there something hanging in front of your camera? Is that like blurring something, or no?
I should have had you add it so that I could type in the chat.
Oh,
whatever that is.
Yeah.
Okay, I thought you had like a mannequin that you had to blur out or something.
Stop, because we're
no worries.
writing riveting entertainment.
No, I mean, I was going to comment on what they had to say, but there's
they're
not saying
anything. I want
anything.
to get to, and you literally brought up the first one.
But they're at least background noise.
I mean, I think it's number one.
Sure.
I think number one.
It's the only notification that I got. You didn't get a notification, right?
Yeah, I guess.
Where's B-Rose when you need him?
I don't know.
I don't know. When you're doing it, you have to hold humility. Everyone's gonna be failing all the time. You're gonna make your mistakes, and even like a magician, he's going to be a little bit slippery on his hands.
Weird. I don't
a little bit, on his speed, a little bit on his, suggestions.
On YouTube.
And every time he does it, he's honing a little.
Do you want to, give it 5 minutes, and if the guest isn't here, we'll just call it.
And even if he starts to talk about that thing to some other peer or something, they might think
we talk when people are talking all the time. You talk over me all the time.
Yeah, but you don't
makes
have one.
that magician's trick that much
so
cooler,
mean.
believable, or
You're
subtly
making me hurt.
more mysterious.
I heard a boop.
So,
you got a boop?
I like how you bring up magic.
Get rid of Joe.
I guess it was my go-to analogy right now.
All right, fine. All right, God.
All right.
All right, so we are going to add our guest, Brandon Smith from Cortex Comics, here to tell us all about his creator-owned comic book crowdfunding campaign, Mountain Hollow Action and Horror Comics, available now on Indiegogo. Brandon, what's up, my dude? How you doing?
You're muted or something. We don't hear you.
Can't quite hear him. We're gonna double check his mic connection, or maybe his mic hookup. I don't know what it is. You go into the little gear settings thing, and you pop that open, and then there's a little audio tab, and you make sure that your mic and speaker are selected to be the right
Mo
ones.
agrees with me. He said it's okay to
Mute
mute
Colonel's
rambling.
Fractal Fervor.
Fractal Fervor when he launches his book.
There we go. Let's go, Brandon. Come on, Brandon. Let's go. Yeah, I'm looking forward to Beckon too. That's another one that we've been anticipating for quite some time. I know I've been.
Shut it, Noah.
This show's off to a great start. It is, man. It's you know, we aim to improve every time we live stream. And so when
sometimes we don't hit that aim.
But when we get opportunities like this to adapt to unexpected situations and try to overcome, it's good to learn from our failures. So, you know, Noah's just being constructive, pointing out how terrible we are.
Yes, we understand that the microphone has to be turned on, Noah. He just muted himself. I think he's swapping out microphones and whatnot.
Does anybody read lips? No, D-Wag does. No. I can't do. Oh, I think I hear him now.
No. Oh. Try again.
Hello.
Yeah,
there we go.
Gotcha. Great. Awesome.
Awesome. Okay, yeah, the whole thing froze up as soon as I tried to log in, so I don't know what happened there.
Well, you're here now, and that's really all that matters. So before we get into the book, why don't we learn a little bit more about you? Now, according to your bio, you're a conservative economist, political writer, and survival expert living in the mountains of northwest Montana.
Yes, that's true. I've been doing...
Did you grow up in Montana, or are you a transplant?
No, I moved here about 11 years ago. Kind of, mostly because I saw what was happening economically, and I thought maybe rural living would be a better way to go, just from the signs that I saw. And I moved out here 11 years ago. I've been doing economic writing for 16 years, political analysis, and survival writing for about 10 years.
So what's entailed in survival writing?
Well, mostly it's just giving people tips. I test out gear. I test out different methods for, surviving in the wild, or, preparedness items that you might want to use in case, you have a grid down situation or something like that. And then I give my recommendations to people according to what works and what doesn't.
So how does being a survival writer differ from being, say, a economist or political writer? Aren't you trying to give people tips on how to survive in the modern economic and cultural climate?
Well, there's different levels, so you can give people advice in terms of how to protect their savings or their finances. I don't really do investment advice. You have to be licensed to do that, so that's a whole separate thing. But I give people tips on where gold and silver might go, where certain commodities might go if they're going to go up or down. But that's kind of as far as I go as far as financial advice.
All right. I mean, that seems pretty genuinely altruistic to try and help people prepare themselves for the absolute shit show that's coming in our near future. I mean, I keep praying for an asteroid every day. Because there is no preparing for that. I mean, just kind of want everyone to be on an even playing field. You're giving all these people a leg up, teaching them how to make shelters out in the woods and stock up and can and survive. And I'm just like, please, asteroid, everybody's screwed then.
Well, it's mostly about it's mostly just about seeing where you're dependent on the system or the grid or whatever, and how you can sort of separate or decouple from that and provide for yourself the necessities that you would need. And I think a lot of people don't realize how much they are reliant on the grid, and how much they could separate and just kind of provide for themselves. It's not as hard as it sounds.
I think it does depend upon where you're at, what kind of access you have to technology to make you self-sufficient. But I agree that people should be looking more into form of personal responsibility to secure their own living habits. I would love to make sure that we had like a, I don't know, more geothermal. And, we had the solar guy out here, and it didn't seem like a really good deal. Do you remember? Anyway.
Yeah, I think he was dumb.
Yeah, I think he was dumb, too. Anyway, so what kind of comics did you read growing up?
Well, I read a lot of just the typical Marvel stuff when I was a kid. Spider-Man, a little bit of DC, not as much DC, more Marvel. but when I got into my teens, I started getting to more, I guess, the more adult stuff, more Alan Moore. I really loved his From Hell graphic novel. Um, Most of Alan Moore's stuff I really appreciate, even though, politically he's kind of a weirdo now. But V for Vendetta, all of that stuff. Also, Transmetropolitan was a big favorite of mine.
My man.
Yeah.
Man. No one says Transmetro.
Just in terms of...
Nobody on this show ever says
That's not true. It's happened many times.
Oh, okay. Well, I don't know what I'm talking about then. I do know I like Transmetro, though. Alice has a really good wit.
See, now you just have me adding hockey without saying hello, because that was all...
Do you want to say hello to everybody in the chat? Just having a stroke. We got Noah. Noah joined us and said some snarky shit. We got Jay Burtz. What's up, my guy? We also have Hockey in the bowler hat. Good day, good day. From Hell, I have that sitting next to me. The art is okay. I know he said eek.
The art's not good. Yeah, it's not great. But the storytelling is amazing, and that's kind of my focus, is the storytelling, and that's why I love Transmetropolitan, because the art's good, but it's really the storytelling that kind of blew me away, and that's sort of my goal with making comics. Is really I think we need at least in terms of Comicsgate stuff, I think we need more of that, where it's powerful storytelling. And a lot of people have the superhero stuff covered, and I'd like to come from the other end of things.
There's a good deal of superhero stuff in CG, but there's plenty of books that are trying to explore other genres, and I guess try and branch out into the different subjects that we that we're interested in, and make them more accessible to people, it's nice to see that. One of the strengths of manga everyone talks about is that there's something for everyone. I like just pointing out the fact that as long as there is something for people to read and to be attracted to, you can kind of have a dynamic environment or ecosystem of comics that people are going to want to participate in, and then discover more and more books. So,
well, this is not everyone.
No, it's
specifically Mo.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, specifically Mo.
Does not like it.
So now you said you like Transmetro, stuff like that. Are there any titles currently on the stands that capture your interest?
Not really. In terms of mainstream comics, no, not really. I find myself going back to all the old stuff, some of the old Punisher comics. I just read the old Predator, the collection, graphic novel collection. Stuff like that. Stuff that's fun, that is not drowning in politics and messaging and propaganda. And, I think that just turns me off completely right off the bat, any sort of signal of political messaging. And almost all comics have that. So,
everything, I'd say, that makes it into the media's lens has that. I found that a lot of the stuff that Kotaku talks about, that Screen Rant talks about, bounding into comics, Bleeding Cool, Bleeding Fool, all these, Bleeding Fool to a lesser extent, actually. I think that one's a lot more pure. But a lot of these companies, these entertainment companies, you want to call them journalists, entertainment journalists, they push a focus on, like you were saying, the politics inherent in the book, or inherent in the media in general. And I think that does a real disservice to stuff that's out there. Now, granted, there are things that are really being just agenda driven, and it's obvious. But you mentioned Predator, and that got me thinking of Prey. And I remember when that was being marketed, and it was really being beaten into us that it was the first all indigenous cast with a female indigenous lead, and it was this big thing. And I was just that's not why I want to watch a movie. Good for them, whatever, but that's not what appeals to me. That's not the selling point. And I saw the movie and I enjoyed it, and it that the indigenous cast didn't even like spring to mind because it's set in, you know, North America amongst a Native American tribe. So it made sense, right? But none of the entertainment companies out there, none of the journalists out there talked about the film and sold the film on its own merit. They sold it with, you know, the agenda, I guess, in mind. And I think that the majority of the stuff that we see coming through the entertainment, you know, sphere right now is so caught up in that there's a shit ton of stuff going under the radar that we don't even get told about, because the stuff we are being told about is the stuff that can be sold on the bullshit identity politics. And then I guess at least a third of that shit doesn't even have a significant amount of identity politics in it once you sit down and actually consume it. So it's weird. I guess like as a political writer, what's your take on like how politics is downstream from culture and all of that? Are you seeing like a significant impact on the political sphere given what we encounter in the day-to-day of our entertainment industries?
Yeah, I do. I would say they're parallel, rather than downstream from one another. And one thing that I write about a lot is the fact that, you know, conservative slash libertarian types, they have a tendency to ignore entertainment media, pop culture, as you know, irrelevant or you know, child stuff, kid stuff. And we did that for so long that, you know, we had these leftists move in and take over everything. And now all of these conservatives and libertarians are realizing how important culture actually is, that you know, it affects the next generation. This is where a lot of the next generation gets their information from, is storytelling. And so, you know, it was a huge mistake on our part to leave it sitting for so long.
So what inspired you to try making a comic of your own? Why do you want to tell stories with pictures?
Before I got into economic writing, I actually did screenwriting for a little while, mostly ghostwriting. Got paid a little bit, not much for that, but I did have a lot of experience in terms of the industry and talking with people in the industry, and I realized how um, I don't know if corrupt is the right word, but there's a lot of ego stroking, a lot of, if you know, you take our ideas and use them, and if you don't, then we're not going to help you out, even if our ideas are terrible. That's what it was mostly about, and that kind of you know, shut me down in terms of wanting to be in that world. But now you know, I've done a lot of my political and economic stuff, and I'm kind of tired of writing about how crappy the world is, and I'd like to write something different, something, you know, fiction tied to the real world a little bit, but still fiction and fun. And so that's partly my motivation, and then also, you know, I've been following CG stuff for a few years, and uh, you know, I thought that that was an interesting way to go about things, at least in terms of funding and the cost, because it's really hard to get into filmmaking without millions of dollars, but you could do a comic for a relatively low amount of money. So that's another motivation.
God damn it, Noah. Oh boy. It was good. It was good. So I agree with you 100%. The barrier to entry in Hollywood is very much about who you know, who will vouch for you, putting in your dues, and having access to funding. Now, the cool thing about screenwriting is, like, if you do know people, or you do have a way to, you know, channel wealth into a project, you can do a lot on small budgets. Not nearly as much as you can do with comics, but you know, the visual medium, you know, motion pictures, that definitely speaks to audiences that comics cannot capture.
I have to interrupt you. Mo Big says, if this doesn't fund, I may cancel my CG survivalist book, Rain Barrel Brute.
That's good, Mo. If you ever did write it and draw it, I'm pretty sure it'll come out before the title that inspired the name. So when did you get your start as a writer? I know you were talking about being a political writer and an economist, but you mentioned writing, within the screenplay, I guess like within film and television. When did you start doing that?
That was when I was around 18. So, I'm 41 now. So that was a long time ago. And then before that, I was writing fiction just all throughout my, teenage years. And so I got a lot of practice doing that. Very, very little professionally. Got paid a few times, but nothing professional.
But now you're published both as an economist and political commentator. Are you mainly published online, or are you also published in print?
I'm published online mainly. So I get published by, I have my own site, which is alt-market.us. Then I have Zero Hedge and InfoWars, which publish my stuff pretty regularly. I think weekly they publish my stuff. And probably 2 or 3 dozen other websites publish my work. So.
Hey, we got Peter Orchard with us, as well as General Piggy. What is up, General Piggy? Glad to have you with us.
We also had JP come in before Rain Radio.
Yeah, I saw.
Not to get political.
He's here to disagree with us.
But I
everything.
disagree with all of you on every subject you can imagine.
So, how long have you been working on Mountain Hollow action and horror comics? Has it been a slow burn? Has this been a recent project? And when did you learn to write for comics? I guess, some of the skills you learn screenwriting do translate over into writing for comics. But, as a visual medium, it is quite different when you're doing layouts. How did all that happen?
Right. I started the scripts. There's 3 separate scripts that I wanted to get finished before I started the campaign. Mainly because I didn't want to have to worry about the next thing, writing the next thing while trying to put together the first book. So I have 3 separate books, each one, or 3 separate scripts. Each one is going to translate to about 100 pages of art and story. So about 50 pages total, front and back. And I guess I just transferred my screenwriting skills over to the comic book writing, and it seemed to work pretty well. Luckily, I have an artist that works with me pretty closely, and we're on the phone all the time, sort of going back and forth in terms of visuals. I don't write a really heavy, long visual script. With all the cues, kind of like how Alan Moore has a 10-page long thing for one panel.
All
caps,
do no formatting.
Yeah, I don't do anything like that. So it seems to work better for me. And the artist that I'm working with, who is Eric Killius, he just sort of takes good direction, and we work on it together.
We got Sim with us, too. I didn't see Sim earlier. What is up, my dude? Thank you so much for tuning in. I'm always glad to have Sim with us.
We also have Mr. Cartoon Critic with us.
Mr. Cartoon Critic.
It's their first time on the channel, so welcome, and thanks for joining us.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you so much for tuning in. So tell me about Cortex Comics. That's your imprint, right? That's the company that you're going to be publishing Mountain Hollow under?
Yeah, that was just, I figured, well, if Mountain Hollow does well, I'll need to have it attached to some kind of independent company. So, Cortex Comics. I just like the idea of, I guess, Lovecraftian horror. You see a lot of, I guess, brains, live brains, and brains coming after people and things like that in that type of horror. So I just made the brain the symbol of the comic.
So, you mentioned you got 3 scripts, 3 books. What are your long-term plans? Do you want to take Mountain Hollow into distribution and go to stores? Do you want to go to Barnes & Noble, sell through Amazon, website, convention? What's your plan here?
Yeah, I mean that would be great to go that far with it. I guess my main focus right now is just getting the whole thing put together. We do have close to enough funding right now to do all the ink pages. We're very close to that. So if we can get to that point where I have all the ink pages done, depending on how the this first campaign goes, if it funds all the way, then we're good. We're golden. If it doesn't, then we'll get most of the ink pages done, and then we'll do another campaign to get the inking done and the lettering.
But mainly right now, this is a crowdfunded comic that you're going to be fulfilling through Indiegogo to your backers. You haven't really given a thought to the aftermarket and what you're going to do with like all the extra copies that you have.
I've thought about it. I know that my artist, he has some connections with several comic book stores, and we were going to see about maybe getting those distributed through those comic book stores and, start small and try to grow from there.
Noah wants to know if we're going to share the campaign at any time during the show.
Or are we going to make him have to open it in a tab and work for it? Since apparently you're new, Noah, or you just don't pay attention, we always chat with our guest for like about 30 minutes.
Yeah, we're about halfway. I mean, like I think he means pinning the link. It's
pinned.
Oh, it is pinned.
Yeah, it's in the description. It's pinned in the chat.
Giga Chad is blinded by his massive amounts of testosterone and just hasn't noticed the fact that it's subtly pinned, bold face for everyone to see in the chat.
I also wanted to say, hey, Ape, and read his comment because it made me giggle.
Here's an example of a panel script. Panel 1, human is dumb. Panel 2, human has died. Panel 3, apes.
I was going to read it. Thank you very much.
I mean, I read it because it's ingenious, and we should talk. We should talk, Abe.
I do still have to open it if it's pinned.
Oh, okay. Yeah, you do. You do have to open it. Oh, he means are we going to show it to him like on the stream? Oh, okay. Well, I'm an idiot. So
yes, I'm glad we've all arrived at that same.
This is nothing new. Would you add the page, the campaign page?
Mr. Cartoon Critic says I'd be happy with just a black and white Mountain Hollow book.
I wouldn't. I want color.
It's our Citizen Kane affairs.
It is. It's so simple. So but like refined. You can do so much with it too. Like there's a whole 3-act structure already built in.
Thank you, Jim. And hello. Good to see you. NTM Comics is not qualified to offer YouTube advice.
Thank you so much for tuning in, Jim. I appreciate it.
That was a great delivery. I could have done better, Abe. I could have done better.
Whoa!
I mean, I couldn't have done it that well.
Nobody can. What's up, Dean James? Glad to have you with us. Good day, good day.
See, he did it that time, not me.
But I didn't go, good day, like however it is you do.
And yet I made you do
terrible. Remember when Noah Ninja launched Mavericks 2 and Amanda B had to remind him to even tweet out that he'd launched? Yeah, I do recall.
I guess hence the
I am potentially one of the greatest YouTubers of all time. Yes, I gotta say, I love this kid's streams. If you have the opportunity to sub to NTM Comics and just click the bell to see when he goes live and tune in for just like 10 minutes, he will say the most out of his mind things, and they're wonderful. And
we still have the clip of the whole
the Anne Frank thing.
So
that was so good.
Just saying, Noah. You may want to be nice to your elders.
No. It still lives on the internet. Anyone can find it. Yeah. How did you put the team together for the book? And had the.
Well, finding the artist was actually difficult, mainly because I was looking for somebody who was not going to give me a page every 2 weeks, and that was rough. So I went through Facebook actually and found Eric. He had a great portfolio, mainly in the style which I was looking for, which is closer to sort of old school retro Gold Key comics, Amazing Stories, that kind of old sci-fi pulp stuff. That's what I was sort of looking for, and he could do that relatively well. And if people look at the stuff he has done so far, I think it fits that really well. But that was a hard part, finding Eric. And then I actually had the colorist actually approached me. His name's Jim Mattei. He's out of France, and he was a reader of my economic stuff. And he just approached me. He knew I had mentioned I was working on a comic book. He approached me and said that he'd like to help out, and he's done I think, a great job so far.
Well, that's neat when you can like convert some of your existing audience into helping you do the new thing you want to do to cultivate a new audience. So you mentioned like old school look and old school feel. What I guess creative works have helped inspire Mountain Hollow, and how have they contributed that inspiration?
I think, like I was saying, old pulp science fiction, old pulp horror, H.P.
Like War of the
Lovecraftian.
Worlds old? Like,
Well,
going that far back?
what's that? Like that horror magazine from the 60s and 70s, I think, is called Creeps or Creep. That the art in that was really interesting, and I think visually that type of stuff is what I was going for with this. In terms of story, it's, I guess, a mix of Lovecraftian horror and I guess modern action, and the sort of the root. Uh, I guess the root of the story is Lovecraftian horror, but my problem with Lovecraftian horror is that it's all based on nihilism. The whole idea of Lovecraftian horror is that there's these things out there, these creatures, monsters, beings that are ancient and so far beyond our comprehension that we're lucky they haven't woken up yet. Because if they woke up, they would just wipe us off the map like ants. We would be done. And that's horrifying in a nihilistic or an existential sort of way. But I wanted to explore the idea of what if human beings fought back? What if people fought back against these things, and how would they do it? And the main character, Alan Young, is a military veteran. He's a survivalist. He's sort of a pariah in his community. They don't like his politics, whatever. They don't necessarily trust him, but he's one of the only people in the town that notices some of these weird events going on. And it all starts with the kidnapping of this first child, this baby who's named Abigail. And he tries to warn the community there's something weird going on. Eventually, he goes after the kidnapper. What he doesn't realize is that in stopping the kidnapper from taking the baby, he has set in motion a sort of a domino effect. A bunch of other things, a bunch of other terrible and mysterious things happen because he stopped the baby from being taken. And that's sort of the beginning of that story. And eventually where it goes, I don't want to give too much away, but the idea is that Alan Young is waging a guerrilla war on these cosmic entities, these cosmic beings.
Right, gorillas, you say. Very good. So yeah, I guess tell me
Gorilla
more
with two
about
L's.
Guerilla. Yeah, right. Yeah. Okay. So
I'm actually that dumb.
No, but I am. So the setting is modern day, and I guess you said it's Montana. Is it the hills of Montana?
It's Mountain Hollow. It's just there's no set location for it, but it's inspired by where I live. So yeah, if you want to imagine
survivalist, a survivalist who lives kind of where you live, who runs afoul of a hidden cabal of shape-shifting monsters who have in some way permeated society. And it's a hopeful tale about fighting back against their influence and exposing them. How much of your own personal life is invested, or is instilled into the book here? Because I know you go on InfoWars, or at least your articles are featured there, and I know Alex has some crazy thoughts about what's going on in the world.
Sure. I'm not as sensationalist, I guess, as some people in the movement, the liberty movement, or whatever you want to call it. but it's loosely inspired by the idea of a conspiracy or, a conspiracy to control or destroy humanity, and the idea that a lot of people see that as impossible to fight against. And that's something that I hear in my other work all the time. There's nothing we can do about it. You might as well just sit back and, let the nukes hit or whatever. And I don't like that mentality at all. I think I don't like nihilism. I don't like the idea that there's nothing we can do. I think that that's self-fulfilling prophecy, that you take that attitude and then, yeah, there is nothing you can do because you sit and you do nothing. So that's partially inspiring the comic itself. But I did want to take more of a fun approach with this and not have it be completely literal.
Right. Show me the alien guy. Go on. Scroll. Hurry up. Scroll faster. Oh god, that's a creepy looking face. And then there's a dude. And then there's Brandon. And then he falls into the thing. Yep. And then he wakes up and the guy's got a crushed up head.
And organs
but we're not to the part that I want, which is this part right here.
Who wants the child?
So who made the aesthetic choices behind the design of the alien monster? I'm assuming it's alien, it's not demonic, right? Because, eldritch horrors, not really demons. They're, from eldritch the far horrors. Realm.
Eldritch there's
horrors, yes, green horrors.
There's no real religious tints to any of this. It's basically, cosmic horror, pure cosmic horror. Yeah. So, I guess they're aliens, but then in cosmic horror, you have things that have been here since before humans were here. So I guess it's a gray area. But this is just one monster. There's going to be multiple creatures throughout the story.
You can see some of them on the cover up top, right? They have like multiple arms and spines and everything. Was it you or was it the artist who kind of did the brainstorming behind what these creatures are going to look like?
I gave the artist sort of basic samples of, I would go through old pulp novels and pulp comics and give him samples of stuff. And then we would go back and forth and just decide, well, how big is the creature's head? What kind of teeth does he have? Are his legs, they have normal knees or do they have inverse knees? That kind of thing. So we would just go back and forth and design it, piece by piece. And you can see also on the, the first image up top, there's the creature popping out of the guy's head. That took a little while too, but I think that's another example of a creature that's far different from the giant one that's down at the bottom.
He's like a giant octopus baby.
Is that what he's
That's
like?
what he looks like. A giant
octopus baby. Okay.
He's like unzipping the guy's.
I think I know exactly. I can't recall the name, but I think I know exactly the image that you're referencing when you talk about like the old Creeps magazine, old school style creature or monster. He had like a big bulbous head, and it's not the guys who were in the Invasion, the movie about like alien invasions with like the brain and like the skeletal faces, but it was something similar that he was like reptilian and he had a weird looking nose. I wish I could find it. I'm looking for it right now, but I can't seem to locate it. Maybe I will a little bit from now. So on the campaign page, actually, why don't you tell me, like, you did kind of pitch to me the plot. Tell me more about the protagonist, though. I mean, he does seem a little bit familiar. Maybe the hair's kind of different, and he's got more of a full beard. But tell me more about the protagonist.
Yeah, well, he's going to be, I guess, 6'1", blonde. Visually he's a little different from me. I'm not that tall, but the the character is going to be, I guess, he's going to have a mysterious history. We know he's a veteran, but we don't know. Something happened to him in his deployments that caused him to become a conspiracy guy. And we learn over time throughout the comic what happened that caused him to sort of turn away from the government, turn away from normal society, and sort of go out on his own. And that's a good chunk of the story. There's also multiple parallel stories that sort of loop into Alan's story. There's a group of mad scientists who are up to something, up to no good. There's a Mexican crime cartel that's involved. There's also a conspiracy within the town itself, the town of Mountain Hollow, that Alan is trying to uncover. So all of this is sort of happening at the same time. And it really keeps. I feel it keeps the story really rolling. As there's a lot of, it's a roller coaster, lots of ups and downs, and I think it's really fun.
We got Elliot Rodriguez art Manigma with us. We also have Hicks Villain with us as well. Speaking of, just real quick aside, Elliot had Dojo on this morning. Dojo is now 95% funded. There's 8 hours left. If we could push Projectile Reptile over the line,
we got another backers at 87 backers.
We would have, an interesting sci-fi monster for Brendan to talk about and maybe introduce to his sci-fi monsters. It would be interesting. Let's see if we can get Dojo there. 88. All right, we only need $222 more dollars.
Less than $300.
In 8 hours, I think you can do that.
Yeah.
Mo wants to know how many issues we have to wait before the protagonist's pronouns are revealed.
Oh, you'll have to wait a long time for that.
Right, he doesn't plan to put those in print. Yeah.
Yeah, it'd be a really long time.
We want it to be mysterious. Nobody wants to assume anything. So, we've been looking at the campaign page. Something down at the bottom, though, stuck out to me. It said fulfillment is scheduled for March 2023. And you say you need 300 backers in 60 days in order to deliver on time. Now, you're into the inks, I think you said, right? You still have the colors to apply. So the book's not quite done, but it's mostly drawn. What do you mean by not being able to deliver on time without 300 backers? And what does that mean for your existing backers since the campaign is flexible?
Well, what it would mean is we would probably have to run a second campaign to get the inks and lettering done, which might extend our time. It would drag it out. Hopefully we don't have to do that. I would really like to get this done and delivered in March. But it really does depend on the funding. How much funding can we get together in this first campaign? And if we do a second campaign, there's time delays in terms of when Indiegogo gets us the money. I know it takes at least 4 to 6 weeks usually for them to transfer funds, so that adds more time. But hopefully we can get it done by March. If there's a second campaign, it would be a little bit longer.
So why flexible then? And I mean, the funding goal is pretty damn high. $25,000 for a heretofore unknown comic book creator. That's a big ask. Most people will tell you that asking for stuff over $5,000 is hard for a first-time creator to accumulate. Some can manage 10 with some really heavy promotion and a lot of help. But $5,000, between $2,500 and $5,000 is generally where first-time creators wanna be. You're gonna lose money on your first book. Like, if you're building a brand, you're supposed to lose money on your first book. As an economist, the majority of the startup companies that have private equity behind them, they don't turn a profit for a considerable amount of time. People fully invest themselves in their work. You're asking for $25K. We're not quite to 10 yet. 8,000 is still really good. You're still doing better than a lot of the books out there that are, benefiting from the hashtag back one, buy one, whatever it is Telepathic Bunny's been doing. So 8K is really, still better than a lot of the stuff out there. But asking for 25 seems like a tough ask, and needing 300 backers is kind of what stuck out to me. Like, what's your plan, and why flexible? You're going to have to fulfill these guys anyway, whether you run a second campaign or not, and if you delay the fulfillment date beyond March 2023, Indiegogo is not going to be happy with you.
Right. Well, I mean, I guess the 25K, that was, you know, I'm a first time I guess user of Indiegogo, and my initial thought was, well, I need enough money to ensure delivery, and I was counting for inflation in shipping and printing costs. That's mainly what I was worried about. So a lot can happen in 6 months or so, and that was my main concern. But now I'm starting to learn that a lot of people will set their goals a lot lower for their campaigns, and then fulfill that, and then just leave it on just you just keep selling afterwards. In demand.
I mean, you have to hit your funding goal in order to do that.
Right. So I have noticed that it seems to me that a lot of campaigns will set their goal lower in order to hit that in demand, and then they just leave it in demand, and then they go to fulfillment. But I think because it's my first campaign, I didn't really realize how that worked. So
he's doing it differently. The way he does it is he counts the physical pages, and then he says front and back. So if it's 40 physical pages, it's 80 story pages, because he's like, counting the whatever. Like, he's not doing it by pages of a book, which is both front and back. He's trying to be extra clear. Gotcha. So the book, just to clarify, is between 80 and 100 pages of content. Yeah?
That's correct. Yeah, we just finished the story panels for the first book, and I guess it's looking like it's going to be about 100 pages of story and art. So 50 pages front and back.
Why then set the price for the issue at $25 if it's a 100-page book? Did I break him? I think I broke him.
Are we frozen? Oh no. See? You asked too hard of a question.
That's not a hard question. You want to know a hard question? Why is the signed copy fucking 5 times as much?
He's back.
That's a hard question. We're going to get to it. So no, why are you charging $25 for a 100-page book? Most of the books in crowdfunding try and maintain like a 50 cent per page ratio. I mean, it's way better to go below that, and I commend you for, $25 for 100 pages. I'm not saying that's bad. That's great. It's just that it seems that you're offering up a lot of content for a low price point with a really high goal and an uncertain funding date. Do you see how, like, that recipe together doesn't necessarily mean, like, it implies that you probably won't hit what you want?
Well, I mean, like I said, it's my first campaign, so I am learning. But my thinking was that I didn't want to charge too high and alienate, my primary audience is actually a lot of people from my own website and my own economic and political work. I didn't want to sort of alienate them and have them think that I'm trying to I didn't want to lose my audience, for one thing, for the comic, I guess. So I wanted to give a reasonable price point on that, or what I felt was a reasonable price point on that.
No, I applaud you. 25 is great for 100 pages. What I'm suggesting is maybe cut the pages. It might be better to split book 1 of Roboros into 2 versions, because going hard, like, all right, so let me give you, like, from my experience. Maverick's Origins is a big freaking book. I had to chop it into 2 because there's no way I can do like a 200 and something page book as my first go. I wanted to try and make it like 80 pages and then 120 pages, right? If the first one is successful. Still, 80 pages is hella ambitious, and doing it at the price point that we did was designed to like undercut the crowdfunding standard of 25. We went down to 20. So it just seems like for a first time person going to 100, that's hard. That's 20 more pages than you anticipated doing. That's what, like 25% to 20% of the total. Like, that's a lot of pages. It's a quarter of the book that you have to pay additional, content for, to the artist and the colorist and letterer. That's in my opinion, like a significant upcharge. Why not make like a 40-page book and have a bit of a different endpoint? That way you could also charge less. I know it's your first campaign. I'm just throwing out like these suggestions because when I see a campaign like this, you got good numbers. You're in the hundreds, right? 120 something backers, 8K. You could have made this 40-page book succeed on 8K. That's all I'm saying. Like, we would have a guaranteed book coming out if it was a $20 40-pager, because you wouldn't need as much for printing and shipping. By the way, do you have a printer?
Not at the moment. We're looking at a couple, but I want to print in the U.S. I don't want to print overseas, so we're looking at a couple right now. In the U.S.
I mean, there are quite a few in the U.S. that are very good. Comics Wellspring seems to be taking up the majority of the business from companies like Comic Impressions that really didn't handle the pandemic or the supply shortage very well. But Comics Wellspring we can recommend because they're also giving discounts if you run an ad on the back and all,
we
all
haven't used them
stuff.
Ourselves, but we know
a lot of the people that we know are using them and they're very happy with them. They're giving pretty decent rates.
The Neffquisition.
Yeah, it is the Neffquisition. You have been
Brandon too.
made. Let's go, Brandon. All right.
I was gonna say, just to your point, it's definitely, this is something that I wanted to. I did actually try to approach some people in CG to get some advice on this stuff, and it was hard to get a response, really, unfortunately. So I just kind of had to wing it and calculate, what it was going to cost me, how much inflation was likely in terms of the shipping and the printing costs, and just go from there. So I'm always open to advice in terms of improving the campaign or doing something better. I'm here to learn, really, and if I have to fulfill by paying out of pocket, then that's what I'll do. But I'm here to learn. So
yeah, I mean, and so first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to send you the Replicator Guide to Crowdfunding Comics, because I don't know how much backing you've done, but looking at a lot of the campaigns out there, like when we went and did our book, we studied all of the crowdfunding campaigns that had come out within the 6 months of our launch. And I dissected all the pages and made sure to see what on the page was appealing. Because, like, you got all these different sales pitches, right? You want to pick the best one. So you just, cannibalize it for the stuff that you like. So we studied all these pages. I don't know how much you back. I'm sure that you got like a, kind of a sense for what people are charging and what, people's goals might be. But I don't know if you haven't read the Replicator crowdfunding guide, we didn't realize that it was out there either until we'd actually already launched the campaign. But it reinforces a lot of what we learned, by looking at what was out there, and also the advice that we got from the chat, which is invaluable. Honestly, asking your fans, your customers, your consumers, whatever you want to call them, the people who are going to support your creative endeavors, asking them directly is something that we can do both in Comicsgate and indie comics in general. Is we can literally just go, hey, what do you want me to do? What would you like to pay? What would you like to get? What would be fair? And they'll tell you, which is super awesome. But I don't, get to see you around a lot in a lot of the chats that we frequent. And I don't think you have a YouTube show of your own, so it's hard to cultivate a following like that, and getting to know people in the people call it a community, I guess. We call it a network. But it's hard to get to know them and like get to pick their brains, because they're the ones that are going to be backing you, if you don't get out there and get into the chats and get to know these people. So I'm always available to give advice or input, but I'm going to make sure that you get the Replicator's Guide before anything else, because although Robocopter, he may not have the greatest sense of humor, he does put together a mean spreadsheet.
Yeah, I have been on Twitter for a while trying to talk with people, and what I have noticed is there seems to be there's maybe one CG group over here and one CG group over there, and it's actually I'm not familiar with how it works in terms of the social media and who's where. So I've just tried to talk to people who I'm familiar with in terms of videos and YouTube, and
it's
I've
going to be hard for you
lately.
to get a hold of. It's going to be hard for you to get a hold of EVS or Shane or Malin or Fraga or Clint Stoker or Narwhal, because even Bancroft, right? Like a random tweet from somebody he's never seen in the chat before or is completely unfamiliar with might be like, okay, I don't know. It
also depends on if they follow each other.
Because sometimes you can't, right? And there's
and you have to get a notification
buffer, and I don't know. But that's the thing. Like, if the best way to get advice from people is to get them to know your name, and I found that Late Night with CG was the place that I felt most comfortable at home and enjoyed watching. I mean, I've watched EVS streams. I don't watch Malin as much as I used to. I don't watch Jack's show, but like, that's the niche that we found, right? Like, and that's where we felt comfortable. There's so many different crews or cliques or corners.
That's what I noticed. Yeah.
Right. So, like, I mean, you could wind up in the slums, talking to Finatra, who's a hell of a lot of fun, who's got a different audience than, say, like we were just e-fapping Joe Catapano, right? Like different people, same. That's why I call it a network. Like, you can't really call high school a community, right? But you can call it, like, you can network with people, right? It does feel like that sometimes.
Jim Cox says, need to chat in all the streams. She'll
after we know you. Yeah. Hey, Shadowpunk, what is up? Good to see you, man. Noah says, many don't know this, but I am one of the most intelligent people in CG. As a matter of fact, some call me the CG Einstein. That's a new one. I haven't heard that one yet.
He's also the most humble of all members.
No, I think Noah will tell you he's not humble, but he's definitely intelligent. Right. He's also one of the best YouTubers, but I'm going to call him the CG Einstein.
I'm humbled.
Yeah, humbled. Yeah, Jim's right. Yeah, the best way to get support from people is to show them your face, which you're not afraid to do, to let them know who you are. I mean, you're already known in as an economics advisor and a political writer, right? Like, you write about these things, you've got articles out there, you have a following from economics and from the the articles that you publish. There's a whole audience there that you could drag with you into CG, and we would all be more, I guess we would all grow the community that way too, which would be fantastic.
That was actually one of my hopes, was that, a lot of my audience, they don't read comics. I have, I think, 200,000 regular readers per month, individual, unique readers. And, most of them don't read comics. That's the problem. So,
make them. Tell them comics are a good investment. Tell them the speculators market is high. Tell them variant covers are going to be worth something. Just lie.
Well, I've been trying to lure them in with story, and so far I've gotten a decent response.
Yeah, you have. 123 is a decent response by for sure. Especially because you have 40 followers on Twitter and nobody in the chats knows you. Like, that's your own audience.
Yeah, that's great.
That's not really the CG audience, as far as I know. I'm not sure, because like I said, I don't catch Ethan every night, and I don't tune into Malin. I don't know whether or not you've been super chatting and floating your name or anything that way. But like I said, 100 plus people from your other audience back in your book, that's great. And you're doing that without any support from CG yet. And I think that if we know you more, if you enroll us more into your persona, and we get to know you in the chat, that it's only more promising. The question is, what are we going to do about the current state of the book, the fulfillment date, the goal, the 300 backers. What?
And I will give you a moment to think about that while I interrupt to read the chat.
All right.
Shadowpunk says, just walked in. Mountain Hollow looks like an illustrated nightmare. Which I think is a good thing. Max said, listen to Neff and Freq Girl. They know what they're talking about. Best in the bunch, in my opinion.
I appreciate Jim's response.
And right.
I appreciate Jim's response.
Then Jim's got to keep it.
Yeah, they're all right.
They're all right. They're okay.
That's a good deal. Oh, we lost him.
Uh-oh. And then Mobix says, one of my favorite Einstein quotes was, I have a tummy ache. Wait, that was Noah when he was nervous about my trolling and didn't know I was actually rooting for him to succeed.
Technically, Neff, you don't know that's not true. I don't know.
What don't we know is not true?
Lovecraft would be proud. Technically, we don't know. I'm not sure.
I don't know.
Shadowpunk never specified it was good or bad.
We're dumb.
Yeah. But I mean, yeah, it's your first. It's your first
fulfillment. That's what I interrupted.
What?
The fulfillment.
Yeah. Back to that, like, it's your first campaign. No one's gonna hold it against you for going out and trying something and not maybe being the most prepared or not being able to, like, you know, live up to unreasonable expectations maybe you set for yourself. I've found that backers, as long as you interact with them directly, talk to them like human beings, treat them the way you would want to be treated, they're patient. They're humans also, you know? So if you have to be like, hey, I'm going to cancel this campaign, drop my funding goal or pay out of pocket, or if you're willing to just pay for the 100-page book yourself to fulfill that and you know, take the financial hit, you know, that'll be even better, right?
Very confused.
What?
Yeah, that would be that would be worst case scenario, but yeah, we would try to run a second campaign. I think would be probably the next goal if we didn't hit funding for the full book. And in the meantime, I would try to get all of those ink pages done and go from there. And if we don't hit the goal, then I would have to pay out of pocket.
It would be like a second chance campaign?
I believe so. Looking at Indiegogo, that's they actually recommend that if you don't hit your first funding goal. So,
yeah, I mean, I would prefer to get the book.
I think that's usually for like a fixed.
I would prefer to get the book and then have people go, holy shit, this book is awesome, and then run a second chance campaign to make my money back, than to run a second chance campaign that might not attract the attention that you want because you ran a campaign that funded but that hasn't been fulfilled because you don't have the money for the second campaign to fulfill the first one. That's just a sticky quagmire that I would want to avoid. They're humans. That's your first mistake. You're right. Ape is far more evolved. He is an intelligent and articulate simian. Do a Kickstarter campaign too. It's back in fashion. It is, X. The embargo has been lifted. Ethan said the end of last year, that he might run a Cyberfrog campaign this year, which he didn't do because he did an action figure campaign instead. But I'm glad to see that multiple revenue streams or I guess avenues of monetization are available to people now. And somebody's trying Zoop, right? Like I forget who treads up. I know Frankie B did Zoop, but like someone's doing Zoop right now. I don't remember who. Oh, it's Six Gun Gorilla. Brian Crisco.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
Ape says, honestly though, 8K on a first campaign is pretty good stuff.
With
it really is.
Pretty much no support in community. You know what I mean? Like nobody knows him for the most part, from what I'm gathering. 8K all him. Yeah. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Like I'm looking at that like that's a win
that you got on your own. So
yeah,
it is good.
I have a pretty strong readership in my other work, and they seem to be excited about it. The people that are interested in comics seem to be excited about it. So
you do have 18 days left. What are the plans to get more eyes on the book and improve your chances of getting to the point where you can fulfill on time?
Well, I'm going to do another, I guess, sort of campaign blitz here pretty soon. I have a couple more promo images coming out. One's going to be out, I think, tomorrow or the next day, and then one will be out in a week or so. And that's just sort of to drum up more excitement, give people a look at more monsters and more action, and more of the stuff that would be going on later in the book. The pages that we have there, the first, I think, 18 are story pages, and that the goal of that was just to show people that we could put together 18 pages of story and have it look good and be effective. And then the promo pages are just sort of action sequences to get people hyped up.
Yeah, I enjoyed the 18 pages. Scrolling through it, I was like, he's got plenty of content. And this stuff colored. Yeah, I mean, we want usually 10, but going to 18, especially if it's a 100-page book, is very confident. It's ballsy. You're like, look at all my content, and that's great. It encourages people to support that, which is why I want to see. If it's possible for you to circulate your campaign around in ways that you haven't already, because just putting stuff up on the campaign page and adding new images isn't really gonna channel eyes there. You're gonna either have to run ads, or you're going to have to go and put this in front of people's eyes yourself. And that's one of the hardest things in crowdfunding, is knowing or learning how to do that part of it to make sure that people take notice.
Well, I've been trying to do that mostly on Twitter, because that seems to be where most of the CG activity is. People who are in CG or people who buy CG comics. I'm doing shows like this, trying to get my face out there and let people know I'm not a phantom. I'm an actual person with an actual comic book, and so the more stuff like this I can do, I think the better, and I will just keep trying to plug away on Twitter and get as many eyes on it as possible before the end date.
Jim goes, same 100. Indeed, my brother, indeed. Same 100. That's what it's all about, right? Getting that support. And Mobig says he's still on Comics Way, but he hasn't done his own show in a while. It's because B-Rose stopped doing Chill Stream. Yes. Yeah, he is. He's still around.
Biggs also said that there's 7 hours to go, and Projectile Reptile is $117 away from funding.
Oh, snap. It's getting closer. We're going to get our 4-armed lizard druid guy. I mean, he's not a druid. He's a gunslinger. He's a cowboy. I can't wait, man. That book's going to be wild.
$4,883.
So is there any advice that you want to give to newbie creators out there? Because it seems like you did this all yourself, right? You wrote it, you found your art team, you put them together, you did the layouts with the artist, you did all the dialogue and everything. Is there any advice you want to give to people out there who are looking to do it as well?
I guess my first lesson in trying to launch this campaign and get the pages together, the initial pages, was to find a really good artist that has a good work ethic. Because if you don't, they will annihilate you. They'll annihilate your optimism. They could destroy your campaign if you don't have an artist that's actually gonna put the time in. If you're getting a page every couple weeks or every week, 1 page a week or something, it's not enough. So you really got to find somebody that's as excited as you are about the project. That's the big one, is finding a good artist. And then, I guess the other piece of advice would be, try to, in terms of the campaign itself, try to find some people who know what they're talking about and ask as many questions as possible, because that was the rough thing for me, was trying to get that advice, not necessarily about, shilling the campaign, but, in terms of price points and perks and all of that stuff, find somebody that knows what they're doing and who can advise you on that, or who's willing to do that.
Yeah, we got lucky. We had a bunch of people that whose brains we picked, and a bunch of people who were more than happy to let us know what was on their mind and what their opinions were.
Plus, we backed.
We backed a lot of shit too.
Campaigns to see not only what
it was
the
all
campaign
research, though.
looked like, right? It was what did the campaign look like?
It's all opposition
what
research.
kind of packaging did they use? Like, how did it arrive safely? That whole.
Yep. What was the interior quality
Right.
like? What was their print quality
What
like?
printer did
What
they
was their
use?
stretch goal?
Yeah.
Blah blah blah. But you guys already know that. So do you have anything left you want to tell the audience other than let's go back Mountain Hollow?
Yeah, I mean, the comic will get done. When I start a project, I finish it. Even if I have to pay for the rest of it out of pocket, it will be finished. So, anybody who has concerns about that, I will finish it. It's going to happen. As far as the story itself, I do think it's pretty unique in terms of just comic books in general. There's a lot of elements that sound like it's just a homage to stuff that's been done before. But if you give this story a chance, I think you will be hooked, and you'll definitely want that next book. So check it out.
I turn all the stones.
It's true.
That's why I look under rocks.
I was gonna say
bugs,
it's middle of the night and I wake up and he's just outside, like in the woods, picking up stones.
No, but I appreciate that, Jim. Yeah, we wanted to win. And Noah, I will consult you next time because we want to hit that 50K mark. 50K young lady. No, it's six figures.
Yeah, that's 6 figures.
Anyway, that's going to be it for us tonight, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in and hanging out with us. Everybody in the chat, we really appreciate you making this show fun and exciting and what it is. All you lurkers out there, I hope you enjoyed the content. Thank you so much, Brandon, for coming and showing off Mountain Hollow. It looks like a very exciting book. Promising. The campaign that we all want to see get funded. So if you enjoyed the content tonight, guys, please hit the thumbs up button and subscribe. Help us, break that 600 subscriber mark.
Getting close.
And if you want to know when we go live next, you can hit the bell for notifications.
And tune into the frequency.
We'll see you next time.